Okay, it's a miserable day outside. It's been raining all day. I started the work on the car yesterday. It wasn't raining, but I could see that it was going to be forecast, so I thought I'd move the car in the garage. Today, I'm going to be installing a oil cooler. Came as like a kit. It's got pretty much everything that you need. So we've got this particular kit. Not only does it is it an oil cooler, but also it's got a remote oil filter relocator as well, which is that part. And then this part goes onto the side of the engine block where the existing oil filter is, and then the lines connect up. It's sort of all AN fittings, so they just screw on. What I've done is I've laid it out just to check and make sure that everything's gonna, the distances are right with the hosing. So you want to, lay it out. I mean, I did a dry fit on the garage floor the other day just to check everything fit together all right, which it did, which was great. The work that I did yesterday was, so here's the cooler. It's just like a mini radiator really. That's all it is. And then to fasten it in the car, I had to figure out a way of fixing a bracket. So what I did is I used this aluminium cornering, which you see here, cut it to length, and then just chopped off the end tabs. Get the torch in there. So chopped off the end tabs, did a little bit of fabrication, so it needed bending because obviously the angle that it was fitting on the car, if you see there, the angle that it was fitting on the car, then the actual oil cooler needs to be pointed upwards. So I wanted it 90 degrees. This bottom bracket is okay, but there's still a fair bit of try and get a bit more light on this. Yeah, so if you get the light right, if you see there is still a fair bit of slack. So my plan is I'm going to add on some extra brackets with the offcut of aluminium, and it's probably going to attach onto the oil cooler, because there's a bottom plate and a lower plate, which is, so there's a lower plate there, so there's some bolts there, and then also up on the top there's also another bracket there, so you can fasten it in two places. So that's what I'm going to do. If I can get my torch to behave itself. Yeah, so these brackets are just I'm gonna drill holes, bolt through there, and the car that I'm fitting it on is actually fiberglass. The body, it's a TVR, so it's pretty easy to use rivets to fix things, and that's how I fixed on the bottom bracket down the bottom here. What I did is there's a front grille that goes on this bit here. So I countersunk the rivets, so when I go to put the mesh back on, it's going to sit flat, because you don't want it sticking up on the rivets because it's going to distort it. So yeah, so that's the lower brackets. That's what I did yesterday, and I think it's a pretty neat job. Just needs a little bit more fastening, because like I say, you don't really want things moving around loose, flexing about. You see, it's got still a bit of wobble. And considering that the air is going to be hitting this at the front of the car, you don't want that moving around, because it's going to fatigue the bracket, so then eventually they'll snap, or the rivets will fail, so you don't want that. So yeah, that's what I did yesterday. I've left off the top part of the brackets because obviously I'm going to have to attach on the lines on the top. So dark and dingy today, and I'd love to be doing it outside with a natural light, but the weather's not on my side. So yeah, that's one of the feeds. I think this one that I've got my hand on now is going to be returning back to the engine, and then this one here is actually feeding from the remote oil filter unit. So I've left the top brackets off so that it's easier to do up, because when I've got like a spanner in there, I don't want the brackets in the way, so that'll make that part of the job much easier. So that's the only reason I left those off. So that's probably one of the last things I'm going to do, is these brackets right at the end. Anyway, they need a bit of tidying up. So right, so yeah, like I said, run the pipes through the car and just check everything's going to make the distance. So if you look down there, you can see the oil filter where it sits at the moment. There you go, just down there, shiny black. So that's where the coupling's going to attach on, and then your hose lines are just going to screw onto that. And in the kit, there's two lines that have got corners. They've got these corners on, so you're going to need those to go onto that, because it's immediately got to turn and head to the front of the car. So there's one long one and one short one. So the long one I'm going to take to the furthest point of where the oil filter is, in front of this radiator. So it's over that side. So that's where the long one's going to go. And then the short one I'm going to feed back. Yeah, so that's it. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to end the video here, because you can't list up ones that are too long. So I'll just pause for the moment and I'll move on to the second part.